All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Sean here with BlueRidgeSilverhound, and we have the Pocket Change Market Report for December 27th, 2023. I want to personally thank you guys for coming on board. Happy holidays there, everyone, and Happy New Year. All right, so we're going to take a look and see if my prophecy is correct about the market kind of slowing down. And I hate to make a liar out of myself, but it was actually a little bit busy here in the last 24 to 48 hours. And we're going to talk about some of the coins and paper money that have sold on eBay. Now, if this is not your first time here, you guys know that we talk about any relevant errors and varieties, maybe a key of some type to a coin or a piece of paper that maybe you guys aren't aware of that exists out there in the world today. Whether you're going through coin rolls from the bank, or you're strap searching, or you're cherry picking from coin shows and coin shops, this represents a lot of different areas where you can identify some of these pieces for yourself and possibly resell them for a profit, or add something really nice to your collection that maybe you couldn't afford before. So it's my pleasure to bring this to you. Of course, ungraded coins, a truly unwrapped kind of video where we talk about a lot of the things that have made a little bit of an impact here in the last 24 to 48 hours. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, we're going to do it up because we have a packed show here today. Let's go ahead and start things off with a calendar of events notification. We do have one more show for the year, and that's going to end up being this Friday. For all you folks that can't quite settle down for the weekend, Friday night, we have the New Year's late night Coinsomnia auction. Okay, it's not quite New Year's Eve, but it's the weekend of. And I think it's a great time to just come by and let's talk the good old, happenings in the hobby. Let's talk about anything and everything. We will have a few coins to sell, but primarily it's going to be just a round table chat around the horn. That's going to be this Friday, December 29th, my first time ever doing a show this late. So it's going to be 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern. So that's going to be at midnight for a lot of you folks out there on the East Coast. So I would encourage you guys, if you want to come by and just chat, without any obligation whatsoever of buying anything, then come on board. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I would love to see you guys there. All right, let's go ahead and jump into some of these selections. We have a fair amount of both paper money and coins to talk about today. Starting out with this 1985 $1 bill. Man, there's some crazy stuff going on here, and it's all in that overprint. We have just a faulty misalignment of some of the elements on here. The black district steel, you can see the 12s that stand for the number corresponding to the district, also misaligned. And this affected, I'm sure, the whole sheet, because if you look at the top margin of this note, you could see the partial 12 on there as well. This is simply an incredible find. Just take a look at the overall condition of the note and understand that this note was subjected to a lot of circulation wear. It's passed through a lot of hands, and all it took is that one eagle-eyed individual to pull this one out as an oddity, and it ended up paying off pretty good. This one right here ended up selling for $97.99 with 19 bids. Trading in a dollar bill for almost a C note. That's a pretty good deal right there. It's the type of thing that you don't hear of too much unless it's like a magic show trick. As you can see, the reverse of the note showing more of that circulation wear. Definitely keep an eye out on these. You can even find them on much newer notes as well. And as long as the mints and the BEP are ran by people, there's going to be that opportunity for some error here. That's just the world we live in, and I'm okay with it. So, pretty miraculous find and a great sale to boot. We have this 1988 Lincoln Memorial set. This one you can tell it's a little bit off center. Some would even say that it's close to a broad strike. You can make the argument that it kind of falls in between there. right there on 9 o'clock position on the front of the coin. It does exhibit a little bit of a major hit there, but aside from that, yeah, pretty neat one here. This one ended up selling for a surprising amount, $34 with 12 bids. It's not like it's a rare date at all, because I've seen other 1988s either off-center or broad-struck before, and this one just so happens to kind of be a much bigger performer than some of the other ones that we've seen in the past. Pretty neat one here. I mean, you don't get too many opportunities to see any sort of mint error on a 1908S Indian head cent, and we have one right here. But, you know, a lamination error is not the most impressive mint error that you could come across. Some would even say that it is one of the more easier type of U.S. mint errors to find, regardless of what coin or series it is. But yeah, funny that it shows up on on the very first 1 cent coin to feature a physical mint mark on there, and that's that S mint on the reverse. So what does a lamination do to a semi-key date coin? It really doesn't help a whole lot of its cause in making this worth more than it should. This one ended up selling for only $50.50 with 13 bids. Okay, kind of proof here that, you know, some of these lower end type of mint errors don't really add any extra value to the coin. Sometimes they could also subtract from it. So keep that in mind. If you find one of these and, you know, they're priced really high, you know, it might be best to just avoid it altogether. Our next piece up here on the list comes in the way of this 1985 $10 bill. All right, we got some oldies in here, but they're not too old. You know, we could come across these at the bank on occasion. But this one right here looks just like a regular circulated $10 bill from the looks of the front of the note. Man, I miss these so much. How about we flip this thing over? Anything crazy going on here? Yeah, a little bit. You notice how kind of tilted and off-center the reverse print is. This is just a misaligned sheet, a faulty alignment of sorts. So the sheet was a little bit tilted, a little bit misaligned when that back print was applied, because it doesn't quite made up perfectly to what's on the front of the note, where everything is just perfectly centered. So this one right here, great sale, $76.79 with 30 bids. You know, this is an error that, you know, a lot of people do overlook, and they tend to just go ahead and spend them. We do see misalignments of this type, even going into some of the newer dates of notes. So again, this is another thing that we do see on occasion, and they're actually worth holding on to. Coins and Cards back at it again with a blisteringly white-hot listing. They have this 1857 Flying Eagle cent. This thing is in phenomenal shape. I would say it's easily a solid XF45, if maybe not a little bit higher than that. You know, at first glance, I was like, oh, okay. You know, a nice solid like AU53-ish type grade, which it could be there. I do see a little bit of mint luster in the protected areas of the coin. But overall, just a really beautiful coin, and this is one that, ladies and gentlemen, goes up in value exponentially as the grade permits. Usually anything above VF condition, these things tend to go up quite a bit. This one was also pitched as being a doubled date or repunched date. However, when you look at other elements of the coin, like the eagle beak and then this wing area in the United States, you could also see some of that doubling effect as well. And we've come to the conclusion that this is some sort of machine doubling, you know, kind of similar to what they call long acre doubling, which is a type of die deterioration on there, which shows clear and present doubling on both sides of the devices. This one is just on one side. So I'm probably more along the lines of just regular good old machine doubling on this. So even with the machine doubling, it does add a little bit of extra character to a coin like this, but We can't argue with this sale of $583, ladies and gentlemen, with 45 total bids accumulated to get to this milestone mark. Again, beautiful coin, probably more made and suited for a type collection of a higher end type status. And, just a really wild looking machine doubling can add in that extra zing to it. And I would say there's nothing wrong with promoting that with a coin of this classic nature. The next one that we have here, this is one that we come across all the time, but this listing might surprise you quite a bit based off of the result of the auction price. 1955 Lincoln Wheat Cent. This one is the Poor Man's Doubled Die Edition. It's die deterioration doubling is what it is. This one also has the cracked skull, as you can see on Lincoln's forehead and temple area, right at the hairline there. Pretty wild and crazy. This one's pretty neat. But overall, the condition is really nice. And this particular anomaly of the Poor Man's Double Die, as you guys know, the FS101 is the big monster double to die for 55. So this one kind of piggybacks on the celebrity that is the FS101. And because of that, really nice condition coins tend to fetch maybe an undeserved premium. You can see the doubling there on that last 5, which again plays into that die deterioration status. This one right here sold for $42 for 23 bids. Again, that's a pretty insane amount of money for a coin that generally sells for about $5 to $10 in any other condition. But high premium grades like this one tend to get scooped up just as an oddity. A lot of Lincoln Cent enthusiasts love the idea of the Poor Man's Double Die, which goes back many decades. The next one that we have here, this one's actually really cool, all right? It's a 1913 Philadelphia Buffalo Nickel Type 2. So this one features the buffalo on a flat mound on the reverse. This was the changeover and reverse design from the raised mound to the flat ground that you see here, and they made 5 cents recessed into the coin so that way it doesn't wear as quickly as the Type 1 did. But this one has pretty dramatic die clashing, both on the obverse and reverse. You can see some of the clashing there under the Indian's chin, and on the reverse you can see it there on the right above where E pluribus unum is. You can see multiple events of clashing in that area. Overall, just a really pretty coin. Nice high-grade example. Mid-state 62-ish, somewhere around here. Probably more, in terms of its grade and condition. The clashing is just an extra bonus on this one. So I'm happy to say that this one was scooped up as a buy it now hit for $65. And I think that's one of the best looking deals so far here in the last day or two. Yeah, I mean, I've seen quite a few of these. I even own a few of this particular coin myself. It's a 1951S Lincoln Wheat Cent. This coin is very well circulated, but you can see a couple of those big die chips, one in the date that connects a few of the digits in the date, along with the mint mark, but check out that die chip under the E in Liberty. You're not going to find too many other dates of coins that have that large die chip under the E there. Or under any letter for that matter. Really neat in spite of its condition. Again, another surprising one here at $18.45 with 4 bids is kind of an overachiever, based on, the die chip kind of market being one of the lower end type tiers of errors out there. But when they're clear and easily identifiable on a coin, that's just like bonus all around. This is a really, really well-loved silver certificate. It's a 35E series from what I could see. Just a fair amount of soiling. You see a bunch of edge splits all throughout the margins on the top and bottom. It's a note that ended up on the list for a reason. And when we flip this thing over, man, you're, again, another note that exhibits some pretty wild faulty misalignment of that sheet. when the back print was applied. You can see that the front was perfectly centered. When you flip it over, it looks like this. You know something's up, and at first glance, you can't really say it's a miscut, because the miscut would show an off-center design print on both the front and back, and not just one side. So this one right here, another surprising sale at $34.88 with 5 bids. Considering its condition, I mean, you know, you could sell this for a lot less. This one was just aces all around. Another one here, 1961 $1 bill. Pretty neat one here where we have a clear back to front wedding transfer. So we have some of the reverse design transferred onto the front. This is all ink that was originally on the impression cylinder. So consider it to be an equivalent to what a die clash is. So when the that extra application of ink that was on the impression cylinder, you know, is there, then it'll go ahead and transfer that also onto the subsequent subject sheets from that point forward. And what's also kind of crazy, guys, is that this one is a star note. Star notes are replacements for notes that were either mutilated or misprinted during the production process. So to find this type of error on a star note is simply just incredible. This is something that you don't see too often, and it's quite rare. When we look at the back of the note, I mean, you couldn't even tell that there's anything wrong with it just by looking at the back. This one right here ended up selling for $104.50 with 20 bids. I mean, that's a really strong market value on this one because of the fact that it's a star note. Really nice all-center error. Boy, this thing is in really nice shape. This is a 1983, and guess what? We see a full mint mark, which is like, that's a blessing in disguise right there. 83 Philadelphia, Washington quarter. It's off-center by about 30-35%. Visually stunning to the naked eye. Obviously, this is a coin that's going to be desired for any sort of error collection. And, you know, as I've stated before, a lot of folks are collecting these off-center coins by date. So they're actually accumulating full date runs of, you know, maybe a decade of Washington quarter or Lincoln cent. This one right here is going to be a highly desired piece. This one, a great auction result at $75.13 with 10 bids. And we also have a 1978 Washington quarter as well. Not nearly as pretty. This one has circulated a little bit, and it is off-center by about 15%. But still, good enough to see a full date, which is very important here. And this one is sold for $24.38 with 4 bids. And again, I think the condition played a little bit of a role with that carbon spot there as well next to the B and Liberty. Kind of shook things down value-wise for this one. All right, guys, double check your constitutional. You might be able to find a really nice 1964 D over D repunchment mark candy $half. So we know that these things at the current level of silver price is about $10, give or take a few dimes in there. This one, obviously, not the most highest end of coins. It's got some staining on the front of the coin, some of that green carbon spot and all that great stuff. But when you look at the mint market, you come across something like this with the double D's on there. The secondary Denver mint mark was punched north of the primary here. For those of you that are not aware, the mint employees actually hand punched the mint marks into the working dies prior to 1990. So RPMs can exist on any date prior to 1990, and these are highly collectible. They're recognized by a lot of the main variety attributors online. This one right here is RPM number 2, by the way, which means there's one better than this. And it's sold for $32.95 with 4 bids. So if you did come across something like this in your silver stack and you wanted to trade in that $10 bill for 3 of those, man, this is your good opportunity here because you know how much these sell for. And this price level is just a consistent amount for RPM number 2. Very rarely do I see them sell for anything under $25. Nice little pairing here. The seller had a pair of 1964 Philadelphia Jefferson nickels, both off center. Very nice little duo here. Could be an opportunity to add something really nice to your collection. Again, very tough date, even though over 1 billion of these were produced back in the day. Well, I believe that's the Denver. The Denver ones is over 1 billion. The Philadelphia's were a little bit less than that. But we see that there's a pretty dramatic off-center strike out of collar for both coins here. They were probably both found in a mid-sewn bag at one point, and that's generally where you're going to find these. This pairing right here ended up selling for $94.80 with 6 bids. It seems like based off of that high market value for these particular coins, that there's probably not a whole lot of area of opportunity to flip these for anything more than what they did sell for collectively. Yeah, pretty neat one here. I forgot that this one even existed. I think it's probably been 6 months or more since I've covered the 2018 Philadelphia Roosevelt dime with the field restricted strike through on the reverse of the coin. So when you look at the reverse to the right of the torch, you see that swath there, that line of which to some people would look like a scrape, like damage. But this particular one is indeed a restricted strike through where there was some grease and debris on the face of the die. The feeder finger kind of pushes it around to give it more of a linear look and not, just a blob. This particular one right here sold for $5.66. Not the greatest photos, in my humble opinion. And, since there are more other impressive errors to spend your money on, this is still, kind of a footnote where you could take something that's 10 cents and turn it into a $5 bill. Again, it's not nothing, and I would certainly entertain that myself. 1998 P Jefferson nickel. Boy, man, so some of these coins have been very impressive today on the PCMR. We have yet again another one here. This one has just ridiculously sharply struck steps on the Monticello building on the reverse. As you guys know, these things are generally graded on that strike designation premise. And it's always good to see, even on a coin that is a mid-error like this, to see something like that is just wild to me. This thing is off-center by about 10-15%. Pretty nice collectible here, although a common date of this type of error. This one sold for $24.13. Keep that in mind. These do show up in circulation. And here's one that I've talked about and covered before. They just don't pop up enough in the open market. Maybe one or two every 90 days. But we have to remember there's a pretty gosh darn big variety on the 1982 large date bronze Lincoln cent or copper, however you want to put it. This is the DDO number 1 or the FS 101 if you're in the Cherry Picker's Guide to Attributions. This is a monstrous find, and you're going to look at the motto "In God We Trust," and if it looks anything like this, where you have this really nice doubling with the splits in there on each one of those letters, congratulations, you hit a pretty nice one here. This one sold for $75.45, and note the condition. It's not like a primo, top grade, top tier condition coin. This one has a few little circulation, things going on with it. So yeah, pretty nice sale here for a coin that is generally overlooked. I would say about 97% of, most roll hunters forget that this one is even on the radar. And of course, Susan B. Anthony's, much like Eisenhower dollars, any error that you can find on them, oh my goodness, they take it to the next level. If we were talking about Jefferson nickel here, sure, it's a $15, $20 coin, but on some of these bigger kind of like shorter series type series of coins like Susan B. Anthony's, Candy Half dollars, Ike dollars, the bigger the coin with big errors on them, these things tend to get out of hand on the market. 1979p, very common date here for the coin itself, but this one is a true broad strike, a very nice uncentered broad strike. Even on the reverse, you see a little bit of their original oxide grease during the mint process of the coin. Always good to see that original and not cleaned off or dipped or something to that effect. So this one, monster sale, $264.50. Was actually a buy it now price, and it got scooped up really fast because the people that collect into these understand the true rarity of them. So if you come across something like this at a coin shop and they're only asking like $50 or $100 for it, wow, you could really turn in a pretty massive profit by just simply recognizing this, buying it cheap, selling it high. The seller, pretty nice, had a pair of 2004 Denver, Wisconsin State quarters with both leaf variants. You have the low leaf and high leaf variety on a pair of lightly circulated coins. Okay, this is a pretty nice little group here. So we put the coins side by side here. The coin on the left is the high leaf variety. You can see that extra engraving line. And the coin on the right is the low leaf variant. That one is pretty easy to distinguish on its own. So the pairing ended up selling for $190. And that is very surprising, that considering not too long ago, and I'm talking, as recently as the last 6 months, where you could buy a really nice BU example raw on eBay for around the price of what one of these would go for in this listing, which is about $80 to $90. So even this duo set, I think, the fact that it's a 2-coin set of each type of variety probably made it a little bit more appealing of a buy, even at $190. But wow, pretty cool. These things continue to impress me every single year as prices, they jump 2 to 5% every year. And, we're at a point where these things are not as affordable as they once were 10 years ago. Now, this one also pretty cool. Even though you don't see a full date, anything from the 1920s that's off-center or broad-struck, rare. And not to mention that you also can see the Denver mint mark. I believe that's a Denver mint mark right there under the date. So it's a 1920s D off-center struck Lincoln wheat cent. I'm more than surprised that this one didn't sell for more than what it did. This one ended at $65.95, considering, such a rare decade for mint errors. This one, I would say, is probably one of the biggest buys of the week. And, another one that comes up, probably, 3 months from now, 6 months from now. They're so infrequently found that they are quite scarce. Compared to that last coin in 1981, not as rare, but this was off-center by about 60%. It's a nice red-brown. It has circulated a little bit, crazy as it seems. This one right here sold for $30.13 with 13 bids. And just think, for paying 2 times what this one sold for, you could have owned that 1920D example. Really nice, pleasing brown example. And here's one of the perennial favorites out there among hunters, alike the 1995 FS101 doubled die obverse has been on the hearts and minds of collectors for 28 years. And I feel old when I say that, because I remember the day when this was first discovered. It was all over the news. But just check out the doubling on both Liberty and the motto "In God We Trust." This thing is unmistakable. It's in the Red Book, Cherry Picker's Guide. It's all over the internet. Everybody knows about this coin. But how about $34.99 for a decent looking example right here? Here's a 1983 Jefferson nickel. A little bit of a cut die break at the base of Jefferson's bust, covering what is normally the little pocket where it has Felix Schlage's initials. That's kind of a common weak point on the dies of these nickels. And this one, has a little bit of a cut die break, and that's where the piece of the die had cracked and fallen off just due to general wear and tear. So this one right here, not the best looking example, sold for $21.44 with 2 bids. Not too bad considering it's a small cut and the coin has quite a bit of circulation wear on there. Love the presentation here. This one was sold by JB's Coins, but not the JB's Coins, I believe, of the YouTube personality, the fellow YouTuber that does and covers coins. I believe this is a completely separate entity in itself with just the same name. Here's a 1999D Connecticut State Quarter broad strike error. So they say broad strike. I'm going to say it's more a little bit off center because the top of United States is cut off. Usually when devices are cut off and you don't have a clear present rim, that's more indicative of an off center strike. But nonetheless, this is such a premier example as far as grade is concerned. And it sold for $59.98. The pursuit for an error collection of statehood quarters continues as people try and identify some of the more tougher states out there. Here's a $20 bill with an overprint alignment. You can see that the overprint with the serial numbers and seals is up and to the right a little bit here. This is on a 96 non-colorized big head. It's got some red staining, probably from a teller pen, which is a commonplace on these. You do have some inscription, some annotative writing on the reverse as well, which negatively impacts the value and the condition of the note. This one sold for $69.12 with 18 bids. Yeah, there you go. I mean, that literally came out of circulation and ended up a 3x value. And the final piece for this edition of the PCMR, how about this 1969A $1 bill? Okay, a very familiar error. As we see, nearly a full back-to-front wedding transfer. It's a little bit on the lighter side as well, which is okay. It just means that the little bit of ink that's on the impression cylinder still made enough of an impression that you're able to see a reverse image of what was on the reverse. This note is in fantastic shape. I'd probably say it's a CU condition or crisp and circulated piece. And I'm happy to say one of the bigger sales in paper money this week at $126.63 with 24 bids. So that represents, ladies and gentlemen, some of the best pieces that I've sold. A lot of stuff, again, that does come from circulation. That 82 DDO FS101 Lincoln. One that you guys need to pay more attention to because, you know, it's a big one. It's one that a lot of variety aficionados strive to own in their collection. So as you guys know, the video is for entertainment purposes only. None of this is financial advice. Please do collect and grade responsibly. And that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. Could this be the last PCMR for the year? I don't know. I think I'm going to do one on Saturday, and that will really be the last one. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my content. Come check me out on Facebook and Instagram as well. TikTok, I'm there too. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Always a pleasure. You guys take care. Happy hunting, and a Happy New Year.